Welcome to the Kelly Sullivan Walden Show, where we harness the power of dreams and the dreaming mind to create the lives we desire. I'm Dr. Dream, and on this show, I not only share my experience and expertise in the area of dreams, but I wrangle the best mind, body, spirit experts on the planet to not only help you stand on the shoulders of the great ones who came before you, but to help you maximize your time on the bridge between sleep and awake, the physical and the metaphysical, the holy and the guacamole, because that's where we do our best dreamifesting. What's dreamifesting, you ask? That's when we allow our nighttime dreams to do the heavy lifting to make our wildest waking dreams come true. I'm so passionate about this that I wrote a book about it, and it's coming out September 2025. So let's get to it, for as we are lifted, all are lifted. Welcome. Welcome to the show today. I'm so excited because I am going to be interviewing somebody that I have been talking about and learning about for such a long time. She shares my name, although we have a different spelling. She's also Kelly, and her full name is Kelle Grace Gaddis, and she is a lottery winner based on her dreams. And she's won many games, many lotteries, and because of listening to her intuition that often is guided by her dreams. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Kelle Grace Gaddis.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, Kelly. Great name you have.
I like to say you make us Kellys look real good.
We'll flatter one another. Yes, you too.
My Irish grandmother would say, no lace curtains. But
oh, yes,
it's true. But it's funny. They used to call me Kelle Grace as kind of a joke because I was so klutzy.
Wow.
Like Grace Kelly turned backwards.
Yes,
But
yes,
you actually are full of grace. So let's get right to it. So tell us about the antique store. Things were not, it was kind of like the worst of times preceding the best of times. So tell us your story, and I'm going to shut up and I just want to hear from you.
Absolutely. When I decided I was going to open an antique store, this is decades ago now. I closed it back in 2004. And I was open for, a fairly short period of time. And after saving so much money to get this 2-story building, and the upper half was a residence, and I was planning on turning it into a yoga studio. I had all these big plans for the upper half, but I thought I have to get the downstairs, the antique store, going first. But in this journey, I must admit, part of me was always thinking, I'm just doing this because I feel like I should, I need direction to do something, because all I was doing before was doing readings with clients. And even though that was like my primary income, it wasn't really, I hadn't really reached the point where I thought, oh, this is all I'm going to do. I've been doing readings for forever, for first family and friends, because I've been intuitive since I was a very little kid, like 3-4 years old. People noticed. And then later, high school and beyond, as I became better at reading other people. But the antique store, it wasn't my dream. My mom loved antiques. My whole family, we'd go out hunting for antiques together. And this was sort of a fun family thing. And my mom had always said, oh, it would be so great if we owned an antique store. I guess I went down that path thinking that, well, this would be something that my mom would love. But it wasn't really something I loved, not in the way, I liked hunting for antiques, but not really as a long-time career. So I think that's my first flaw, was setting down the wrong path. So it didn't take long before I realized I'd made this huge investment. Thousands and thousands of dollars to get the building and the antiques and to get everything set up. And as it began failing, not really doing great. We'd have sales here and there, but it wasn't a sustainable business model. I realized I was going to have to close. And because I have always been a spiritual person. I think everybody is a spiritual person, but some people are more awake to that than others. But I'd been actively meditating with the concepts energy material from about age 15, 16 onward. And I always felt like, I'm the winner at living life. I can do anything I want, but I lacked a little bit of direction when I was younger. I liked to go out with friends. I liked to be more of a social person. I wasn't really, like some people, like my niece, she always knew she wanted to be a veterinarian. She was, knew it at 9, became a veterinarian, straight down the path. I was not that person. But then I realized I was that person. But what I am is I am an intuitive reader. And I just hadn't owned it until, it was 1998 when I first got my first website, a website I now need to update, by the way. And I'll jump back to the antique store in a second. But while I'm thinking of it, the website is being updated entirely because it was formed in 1998 and the web host is just unreachable. So I have not been able to update the prices or anything. And my prices changed a while ago. So just so you know, please don't be surprised if you go to my website and then I tell you later that the prices are slightly different because
I've got a great person for you if you want to do it.
Wonderful. Yeah. I'm building a whole new website because I've just reached the point where I've tried everything to access that website and I can't do it. But yeah, so like the antique store, I ended up closing it. And the night before I was going to have to like really start packing it up and moving out and, letting go of a lot of money, because it takes time to save money to build something like that. And I was thinking like, I'd probably never really be homeless because that's not really in my cadence, but I would be having this huge setback. And not as a super young person, 2004. I mean, I'm 60 now, so I wasn't young then. But I didn't want to find myself, sleeping at a relative's house for a month or two, couch surfing with family at that age didn't seem like a real win. But I'd kind of accepted it, that maybe it wasn't going to work out and I would have to find another dream and set down that path. So that night I fell asleep. And I often remember dreams. And I believe, like you, that dreams can be very informative. They can be very healing. They definitely can give us direction. And sometimes if they're a bad dream, they're just there so that you don't have to live it out in your life, in your daily life. Better to have a scary dream in a nightmare where you won't literally get hurt than to live the nightmare in the physical reality. But so I ended up sleeping and dreaming so vividly of the QFC up the road. And I thought, well, I don't even go to that store very often, but here I am. So, and I dreamt of the lottery counter. I dreamt of a woman named Eileen. I could see exactly what she looked like. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go. And then behind her, there was a clock. It said 2 p.m. So when I woke up the next morning and I remembered all the details and I quickly wrote it down because you know how sometimes dreams can fade. So I've gotten in the habit of keeping a dream journal of something that seems rather important. And I thought I'm going to go immediately to that store. And I was just talking to somebody the other day, one of my reading clients, and I decided I should start telling this part of the story because it's so fascinating. Sometimes right before something really great is going to happen, if we haven't cleared out all of our blocks, there will be obstacles. Those obstacles can be enough to set some people back. Like when I went to go get the lottery ticket, I went outside and lo and behold, the whole row of cars, somebody had knifed every tire. Like there's like all of our cars. So I couldn't drive to the store and it's in the middle of winter. It was February 2nd that I won. It's, it's cold. Store is quite a ways away, a couple of miles away. And that could have put some people off thinking, well, I'm not going to walk to the store, but I knew I would have to walk to that store if I wanted to get there at the time, because this is, I didn't coordinate a Lyft or Uber or any of that back in 2004. So long story short, I walked. And even before that, there were other little things going wrong. Like I have pets, some of the pets got sick. I'm like, what is this? It's like, all these obstacles, but I was so determined. I had this dream. I was going to be at that QFC on time so I could buy that ticket at 2 p.m. just like I saw it. And I made it there. And I must admit, even I kind of caught my breath when I looked behind the counter and there was Eileen. And it was the exact woman. She looked exactly like that. I got there that few minutes early and I thought, well, I don't want to buy it early. So I let somebody go ahead of me. And then right when they left, the clock ticked 2. And I was like, oh, wow. So I just asked for the ticket. I said, do you have a game called Lucky for Life? Oh, she goes, oh, yes, we do, you know. And I said, well, that's great. I'd like that one. Because I didn't even know if that was a real game or if I just made it up, because I wasn't a regular lottery player. But she said they actually had the title Lucky for Life. So that's the only ticket I bought. And then I went home and I won. You know, I mean, I won on February 2nd. That all happened on February 1st. And then February 2nd, I won. So it was just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That is so amazing. And I like to think you are the Dreamifesting poster child. The new book I have that's coming out that's on pre-order right now is all about dreams that help us materialize in our waking lives and how to do that. And I know you've got some really beautiful techniques, but there's a few things I want to talk about first, and we're going to get to some of your techniques because I think you are a very practical mystic like me. I like to think about being on the bridge between realms and not just kind of floating off into Never Land, but really being a bridge person. And I see that in you. So I first want to give an acknowledgement to Timothy Schultz. I suggested you to be on his show, but you did such a great job on his show. He was so thankful to me, and it was such a beautiful synergy. And Drew, the person behind the scenes who's the one that found me. So there's just such a wonderful synergy of people that are all helping each other and supporting each other as we are lifted, all are lifted. And I just want to say that there was something important that you were saying about I was living somebody else's dream. I was living my mother's dream. So I don't want to take up too much time talking about this because I know people are chomping at the bit about like, how do I win the lottery too? Or the equivalent of it in my life with regards to health or relationships. But I want you to say something because you didn't win the lottery while you were living your mother's dream, but when you made the commitment to release it, that it seems like you did create some opening. Maybe not all the blocks were lifted, but can you speak to that about what that was like for you?
You know, and it was the same night, actually, that before I had the dream, I was just sitting up there. I meditate. I've always been somebody who loves to meditate. And I was contemplating with my higher self, like, so why did I let this into my life? You know, this is a lot of money going down the tubes, you know, with the 2-story building and losing all of it, thousands, tens of thousands to be exact. But so it's a big hit. And I thought, it just hit me. I said, you can never really create a joyful life if you're doing something for someone like duty and obligation or out of guilt or because you feel like it was this would make somebody else happy. You can do little things like that. You can,
Yes.
favors and gifts, but to live your career life, it's very, right. That's a personal choice. It has to be, what does my heart want? Who do I want to be? And it's really about that you're living your dream, not living my mother's dream. And that was the mistake, is that because I had not owned that it was okay to be an intuitive reader for a living, that because I was doing it and making a living at it, but I just felt like there was this stigma that's not a real career. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So it was sort of like, it seemed like more like a hobby. And then I thought, well, the reality is the universe is screaming for me to do this, because I always had clients. I'd have one client and they'd tell 3 others, and those people. And I had this very word of mouth clientele. That's why I never update the website, is I always,
you don't need to. Right.
So right. There's always people there, and I'm scheduled out of ways. So I just never thought to update it, but I am going to update. I promise everyone I am going to update that website
before it just disappears.
Yes.
But so it's a principle that, I think in some way being a generous person is better than being a really like miserly, selfish person. And you seem like, and then a lot of women I know overgive. They live their lives for other people because that's what they get the kudos from. So I feel, but then at some point we have to realize to be ultimately generous is to live our lives and give from that bounty. So that's what you did. Okay. So there we go. So before you won the lottery, and let's just also say, after you won the lottery this time, you won it a bunch of other times, like almost every day for a year. So tell us about that year that you won over 200 times.
Well, it wasn't just lottery. I won, I live in Washington State, and there are Native American casinos all around. I'd never really gone to any of these, but I started dreaming of different ones and then machines. And just like the game title, Lucky for Life, I didn't know if they existed. So I would dream this dream of like, it would say Wild Wolves, or it would say Cash Cove or some name. And I'd see a picture of what it looked like. And then I'd go and I'd say, hey, do you have a game called Wild Wolves or Cash Cove? And they, oh, we do. And then they'd walk you to a thing. And often I'd dream a number like, B26 or B4. I thought that probably means something. Well, those machines have numbers on them, so you just sit down at the one with the number. And then within minutes, I would put in like $20 and boom, I would win. And this went on and on and on. And just so you know, I did have that go on from, it was a long time, 2004, and it really strongly through about 2008. And then it kind of dialed back, as if the universe was saying, like, we're not going to send you these whispers. We want you to use your other gifts. We want you to expand your other talents. And so I did. And then as I needed, like just recently, like in the last year and a half, it suddenly dialed back up again, where all of a sudden I'm dreaming these dreams again, but they're much bigger than before. It's as if it's telling me, before you'd go in, we'd send you one of these whispers and you'd win 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. And then I had one huge one that was a few huge ones. It was like 112,000 and then 20,000 and 10,000. But then fast forward to now, and now instead of winning one jackpot or two, I went in, and this just happened the other day, and that the staff actually was looking at me like in the most bizarre way. I put in $40 and I won $4,000. And then before they brought back the money, I won $2,500 more dollars. And before they brought back the money, I won $3,600. And it happened 2 more times. I left with $16,000. Oh yes, 5 in a row. They even were saying, this is really weird. We might have to turn off the machine.
Oh my God.
And okay. Then I thought, well, that was beautiful. I went home, and I often do gratitude meditations after when any good thing happens. Yes. I used to do gratitude meditations when I'd win $30 on the lottery. I'd be like, this is great. I said didn't have that $30 before. It paid for the ticket. Plus I could buy more tickets, and I'd be really excited. It was never about just the amount. It was about the gratitude that I'd received something, and then the amounts just keep getting bigger. Well, now I thought, well, that was a beautiful moment. That I was driving home the other night, and a different one popped in my head, and I won 4 in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, it is defying the odds, but by a lot, because the casino people start saying, hey, this is really weird. And I said, I agree. You
might have to come in wearing disguises, because they might try to block you at some point. Like a wig
I think it is for a point, because I've been moving toward telling my story in a book. And I feel like maybe it's also bringing you still have it. We're still here. This isn't the predominant. This isn't the only way to receive money. It is a way. It is one of the channels I have opened and have been exceedingly grateful for. Because, I've met, I have a lot of reading clients. I have met people, like they say, bless his heart, but I won't say his name, but he won $30,000, and he was so angry because he kept saying, well, now I'll probably never win the big one. And I said, oh no, please, you don't limit yourself. Don't limit the universe. Be grateful for the win they gave you. How do you not know? It's not a signpost on the way to you winning something greater, and many years ago, before I won Lucky for Life, I mean, I say I didn't play, but I'd buy a scratch ticket once in a blue moon, and I'd win like, $900 here, $1,000 there, very rarely, but or 25, that the amounts would vary. And that's when I was younger, but I was not like what I would say committed to playing the lottery by any stretch of the means. It was pretty rare. I became more committed lately because I think they're sending me whispers. I actually just, well, hopefully we'll win again, because I just had one where I dreamt partial numbers. And that just happened like 2 nights ago. And I went out and bought a ticket, so that's actually tonight. So we'll tell you later.
Oh.
but I only got partial numbers, so it might not have been about that. Maybe and I accept that too. Like, don't give it to your ego. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that the universe doesn't love you. It just means that I truly believe it's like a great chessboard, and we're all being moved how we're supposed to be moved, getting what we're supposed to get piece by piece as we're able to integrate it into our being without making it like, oh, I'm Mrs. Big, or, do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people, like, they have a win or something and they think that they're, God likes me best, and God likes all of us equal, yeah, exactly. So it's sort of like, don't give it to ego. Just be with the joy of whatever happens, big, small, or otherwise, and know that more is coming.
Ooh, I love that. So there's something about your what can be transferred. And what I want people to hear from this is not that there's anything wrong with you if you haven't won the lottery or if you don't win the lottery, because the lottery shows up in many different ways, having won the lottery with relationships or in other aspects of life, and whatever good things are coming in, like you've said. But so I'm looking at kind of the formula of there being this gratitude and also being intuitive, practicing hearing the messages, but then acting on them. That feels like the big piece. I think people, myself included, I mean, I'm pretty good at acting on what comes through. I think I've won the lottery with books. I get a book title, I write it down, and I call my agent. She's like, I could sell that tomorrow. Boom, boom, boom. So, I mean, we all have our way that might be a more well-oiled groove, but to act on it, to not just have the idea and be like, oh, that's interesting. Next, you actually get into the physical and show up.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say the vast majority of the time, I can think of only like one or two times where it wasn't that, and maybe it meant something else, and then it dawned on me, maybe they just wanted me, because often these things happen while I'm driving. Maybe they just wanted me off the road, so something
right
to me, because
exactly.
I have, like, if it's not instant, it's not, you don't want to go down some other path, of trying to make it happen. That's not the same thing. And I did make that mistake in 2000, just after 2008, when it sort of stopped for a while. I kind of went down a little dark thing. I was like, well, why did it stop? And then I had to forgive myself and open up to that all things come to me at the right time. And if the time for me to not have that for a while, then just be at peace with that and wait for what comes next.
So let's talk about the things people can do to leverage themselves to get into the position where they might hear their dreams more clearly. They might hear those whispers, as you say, that happen in our waking state when we're driving, taking the shower, whatever that is. Some of the things that, because like you said before, you can't control when it comes, but you can do X, Y, and Z. And that's kind of what I write about in Dreamifesting. Do these things, like listen to your dreams. But let's talk about the things that are part of your regular repertoire of things that you do to put yourself in the position to be able to hear and feel.
Yeah. Well, I think some of the most important work I did, and everybody should continue to do periodically. I don't know if not everybody is going to be attuned to Concept Synergy, that meditation series that I am a huge fan of, and I am happy to promote them for free indefinitely because I believe they have done great work. They have a title called Busting and Building Ego, which can get people out of that space. The ego, a positive ego, as they say, just delivers information. It's like a postal worker delivering mail. For example, a positive ego, say you're having a party and somebody spills wine on your beautiful white carpeting. And then the positive ego says, oh my goodness, get a towel. Wine was spilled, clean it up. A negative ego, which has been distorted by challenges in life, difficulties, faulty beliefs, the faulty beliefs of others, our parents, our friends, teachers, whoever. It says that woman spilled that wine on purpose. She's trying to ruin my party. Do you see what I mean? It taints, it colors, it gives wrong information. So you have to clean that up first so that you know that you're listening to your positive ego. Like in the lottery sense, many years ago, I had one client, he said, I had a dream that said I should sell my house and spend every dollar on lottery tickets. I said, that is your negative ego. Because your negative ego would put you in such a compromised position. Your positive ego would say buy one ticket, or maybe one of each if you want, but it's not going to say sell your house and spend $500,000 on lottery tickets, because I guarantee that the odds of that person winning are almost zero. And people are like, well, what if you would have won? You would have had to be a part of the exchange to understand how I could feel to the core of my being. This person was about to sabotage their life and in a very painful way. And I actually don't know what he did because I didn't hear from him again. So he might have sold his house and lost anything, but I have a feeling if he would have won, I probably would have heard from him. But it's really just to clean up the ego so that you're in a healthy ego that just delivers information, not a negative ego that distorts it with untrue things, and I can't hear you, Kelly. I think your mic was turned off.
How about now?
Now I can hear you.
I think this is such an important thing that you're bringing up, and we need to figure out how to discern between the positive ego and the negative ego, or the ego that doesn't serve us versus the ego that does. And
Yeah.
I love that you said it wouldn't put you in harm's way.
Nope.
Like the leap and build your wings as you go. What about baby steps? What about, learn to fly, or I don't know, take a trapeze class or something before you just splat.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point. So we've got concept synergy, which is,
and they have a guided recording. It's www.lazaris.com. That is their website. And if you put in ego or busting and building ego, the title will come up. They have several other titles. Right. Frankly, I recommend them all. I have worked with their meditations extensively. I mean, from the time I was a teen, and I just believe they have created the greatest body of work in this in particular arena that's out there.
That's amazing. Okay, so conceptsynergylazaris.com and doing the ego busting or whatever that is. We'll look that up.
It's a very old title, so it's a bit of a, so it's not as high a quality as some of their later ones, but
who cares if it helps us?
Priceless. Yeah.
Yep. And then so developing a way of understanding discerning whether it's your positive ego or not. And then, okay, so then what are some other things that we can do to put ourselves in the way of grace?
Well, for dreaming, I mean, I mentioned this on Timothy Schultz's podcast, but I can't. I do it every night. I have two little Post-its by my bed, and one says, tonight I want to remember my dreams. If you can bring me dreams that give me, that create miracles in my life, even better. But I'm open to whatever you're going to bring to me. And in the morning, I say thank you. Sometimes I say it shorter than that, and I usually repeat whatever I ask 3 times. I just phrase it, however I phrase it, I say it 3 times, because you're kind of knocking on the door of your subconscious that understands things in threes. So it's like, I want to remember my dreams. I want to remember my dreams. I want to remember my dreams. You can actually write out a longer thing. Just say it the same, whatever you want to say. And then when you wake up, remember to say thank you, because the team's working with you. I mean, it's like if a team works all night for you, are you just going to wake up and throw the covers off and charge out the door and not even say thank you?
Right.
Because they're going to deliver more and more information, because gratitude is an avenue. If
anyone ever saw the movie Inside Out, then it's like they have this whole scene about the production that goes on to create our dreams, and then we just wake up and we're like, next, whatever.
Yes.
So, thank you. Yeah, I think the universe doesn't have an ego, but I think the universe doesn't mind when we're grateful. I think that's when grace happens. Okay.
Anybody can receive a miracle. Even side note on that, anyone can receive a miracle, from the person passed out, drunk, homeless, destitute, lying on the street, cursing at the world, to the Elon Musk, the wealthiest among us, and all points in between. God does not pick favorites, and anyone can receive a miracle. So winning is, in a way, in the realm of miracles. And I tell people it's ideal not to try to do traditional manifesting techniques to receive miracles. And I'll explain why in a second. A traditional manifesting technique is when you write down your goal, you visualize yourself having it, and you expect to get it. But miracles, that is heavily gratitude driven, heavily forgiveness driven. When you forgive yourself, forgiving yourself for your mistakes, which is probably why I won the lottery, is I really thought about it. I didn't do anything wrong. I just made a bad financial decision. I spent all my money on a store, an antique store that I didn't really want to run. That's not like the most evil thing that ever happened. So I just sat there and I thought, it's a mistake. I've made mistakes before. I'll probably make them again. I can forgive myself for this. And I really did. I felt it in my heart, like, hey, Kelle, it's okay. And I thought I'll carry on the next day. And somehow it all integrates into that. And the other component, and I wished I'd mentioned this on Timothy Schultz's show, because I really thought of how important it is. So I'm glad to be able to share it here, is being. Most people are always doing. And like, well, how do I do being? Well, you can't really do being. Being is the act of, it's even hard to explain, and that's the trick, but it's important because it makes you the receiver. It's harmonizing with the universe. So it's getting to that place where I'm not asking for anything. I'm just being with my higher self. Like the two of us imagine yourself sitting on a dock at a sunset, watching the sunset together. That's being. Imagine laying in bed at night with your head on the pillow, and you just think about how much God loves you. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to be with God. I want to be with the universe. And then some people are very uncomfortable with, the big God, but I really believe in God, and I believe they want everyone to have everything. I believe God always says yes.
Uh-oh. All of a sudden I can't hear you. So we're going to go to a quick break, and we will come right back while we get Kelle's audio on. Or is it mine? Can you hear me, Kelle?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm going to keep talking. Why don't you log out and log back in, and I'll just talk a little bit. I'm going to give people Kelle's, let's see. Kelle's website is Kelle, Kelle, Grace, Grace, Gaddis, GADDIS.com. And she offers private sessions. As she said, she's updating her website. So some of the prices they might so build in a little percentage that it's going to be more, but well worth it for private sessions and different workshops and things that she's doing. Also, I've got a couple of things up my sleeve. If you're watching this in real time, go to barnesandnoble.com. My new book, Dreamifesting, which is all about Kelle Gaddis and I are on the same wavelength about allowing our dreams and our intuition to help us have the things that we want in our lives and create those things. But it's very soul and spirit driven. The ego is a part of it, but it's in the back seat. And it's a very transformational way to allow the blessings to come. So Dreamifesting, Barnes & Noble has it available right now for 25% off. It's on pre-order, but you can get it wherever books are sold. So that's Dreamifesting, Dreamifesting. Also, if you're watching or listening in real time, in a few days, I'm going to be live at the Conscious Life Expo. I'll be interviewing Bashar. I'm also interviewing Britt Elders. So we're going to be talking about some off-planet stuff. So everything that Kelle and I have been talking about today, what Kelle's talking about, we could just sum up in a word. It's about kind of raising your vibration, being in a state of being, paying attention to your dreams, being in a state of gratitude, trusting that the universe is on your side and the universe loves you. It doesn't love the person next door, doesn't love Kelle Grace Gaddis more than it loves you. You're just as loved and blessed as she is, or as Timothy Schultz is, or any celebrity that you might look up to. You are absolutely blessed. So knowing that the universe is on your side, being gratitude oriented and forgiveness oriented, being willing to forgive yourself for any place in your world, any place where you need some self-forgiveness, where you missed the mark. Whew, I had a dream about that last night. I might tell about it as we're waiting to get Kelle back on here. And I see that she's back with us. Let's see.
Hey,
And
sorry to
Kelle,
be
can you?
gone so long.
Hey, no, that's okay. I could chat on for a while,
Okay.
but I was just kind of recapping some of the things that people can do. It's about being forgiveness oriented for other people that have maybe said or done something that was hurtful, and when we have missed the mark.
Yes.
Um, I had a dream last night that I was being chased by a young girl with a pink, funny, I'm wearing pink today, a pink board, and she was trying to hit me with it. And kind of like Tai Chi, I just said, "Hey, honey, why don't we hang that board up on the wall? Let's make a testament to it. Let's make a beautiful art out of it so you don't have to carry it around and hurt me with it." So I feel like I was talking to my little self
Yeah.
about, instead of beating myself up, like I'm not going to get rid of that part, that critical
Yeah.
part, but I want to redirect the energy and make art out of what had used to break my heart. So
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
dreams like that can help us do some of the clearing out so that we're more available,
Oh,
even if we don't necessarily win the lottery. But I feel like just by being present with God is like
yeah.
winning the lottery. And then whatever whispers we get guides us exactly where we're supposed to go. So
Oh, I do have something to add to that.
great. Add
Real,
that away.
because I agree with everything you just said. And but in my working with clients, I had one client who was so determined. The only thing she wanted, it's like, it must be the lottery. I've got to win the lottery. If I don't win the lottery, I can't imagine any other way to achieve freedom. And I said, work outside of your imagination. Then you have an imagination where you can only imagine this, but the universe can imagine anything. They can imagine any way of getting you that money. I said, maybe it will be the lottery, maybe that'll be your way, and that would bring you joy. But what if it came some other way? And we went back and forth with this and readings for actually years. And then one day she finally goes, I guess you're right, it could come some other way. And about a week later, she was working at a pharmaceutical company, and the company, she didn't like her job. She actually had a pretty good income. She was making about $180,000 a year. And she said, she just had always wanted to quit the job so she could pursue her artistic endeavors. Her job was to write reports on various drugs, and she wrote one that apparently put the fear into them to such an extent that they came to her and said, "We're going to let you go, and we want you to sign an NDA." And they gave her millions of dollars to never talk. So I know. And I said, that was your way. That was your way,
Exactly. Oh my goodness. I'm going to be interviewing Bashar in a few days. And one of the things that he talks about is how all the different ways abundance can come to us,
Yeah.
in the way of gifts, in the way of lovely people. He talks about this one woman that was a photographer, and she asked the airline if she was a really good photographer, if they could like let her fly for free in order for her to take pictures and on the airplane and with the airline in these exotic locales. And they said, absolutely. So they gave her around the world tickets,
Awesome.
and they also paid her, but she
That's
was willing to not have a financial exchange, just to have an exchange of energy. But
Yeah.
because she was in that spirit, she was able to have this dream life. So I think you're absolutely right. We need to just be outside the box and not feel that like somebody else has it better. I love that you said that. God doesn't love anybody better than anyone else. Like
No.
we have just as much love as anyone. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the things we can do. I love the Post-it notes by the
Yeah.
bed about
Yeah.
remembering dreams. You also talk a lot about your own meditation and
Yes.
the value of having like a meditation practice so that you can hear
Yes.
what comes up.
That is what forges the groove for you to be able to hear. And it helps you learn to be. Because for a long time, and it's very common for people, so people shouldn't beat themselves up. Like when people start, they'll say, "Oh, I can't meditate. My mind's too busy. I close my eyes and I think of my kids, or I think of what I need to buy at the grocery store, or what I'm going to make for dinner." And I said, that's perfectly normal, but it doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. I said, it might be that way for a week, a month, a year, Heck, it might be that way for 2 years, but one day, if you keep it won't be 2 years. It would actually, I'd be very surprised if it was more than a month, frankly. But if you commit to doing something every day, eventually the stillness will enter, and then you have a space to receive and a space to create, be it you want to visualize traditionally, desire, imagination, expectation, knowing what you want, seeing what you want, and expecting to get it, or if you want to be a vessel for miracles, or both. And I believe in both. I think both are good, you know.
So interesting. My husband said yesterday, and I loved that he said this. It was so clear. It's just exactly what you're talking about. Traditionally, we think that when we're not doing anything, we're not doing anything. Nothing's happening. We're kind of just unplugged.
Yeah.
And when we're doing, we're
Yeah.
actually doing something.
Yes.
But he said, but I think it's actually the opposite. When we're in the silence is when most of the work gets done.
Yes. Yeah.
And when we feel that we're full enough to actually move and do something, it's not like when we're in the physical realm, like you showed up to that QVC on at 2:00 and saw Eileen, like you showed up, but it was kind of like unwrapping a gift that had already been given.
Yeah.
Yes, you were doing something, but it wasn't like you trying to fight something. You did have to jump over a few obstacles, but you were guided by something, as opposed to just out there like a wild woman, just freaking out for no reason.
Yeah. Exactly.
So the doing is lovely. I mean, I'm a doer.
Doing matters. Doing matters. Yeah.
Right. But doing from inspired being that leads us to the doing. Some people maybe err on the side of being so much that they just like, why didn't it show up? But like you didn't go to the store.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's another, I never tell, all readings are private and 100% confidential, but I sometimes share anecdotes from the events.
Please.
For example, one client, she was programming for years before she called me, saying that she wanted to find a partner and have a loving relationship. So the first thing I asked is, so that's great that you're doing the desire, imagine, expectation. Where do you go to meet people? Oh, I never leave the house. I said, what do you mean you never leave the house? She goes, well, I work from home. I have my groceries delivered. I said, well, unless you're going to marry the delivery person, we're really limiting our range of who you're going to meet. I said, you still have to take some action. Like, where would somebody I want to meet be? Maybe at a meditation retreat, maybe at a book club, you've got to go where the people are to a certain extent to show up. But yeah, and the being is tricky because there is that element of kind of looking over your shoulder. Am I doing it right? Am I being now? That sort of thing. But taking that out as well is a very pivotal thing. Like, you don't want to be in the place where you're, let's see how to say, actually, in manifesting in general, in receiving miracles, definitely. You don't want to be in the place where you're like, I did the work, God, where is it? I did it, or waiting, like there's this impatience, like like very often I hear with my reading clients, they're like, I did the meditation. You said I didn't win the lottery on Monday. I said, yes, well, I meditated for decades before I won that lottery, but I had miracles all the way. I learned and grew. We're here to grow, change. Our souls are primarily interested with growing and changing. They're not so pushed about, our financial situation. That's why we do have people that are, their souls don't not like them. They'll end up, some people will end up homeless because they need to have that experience to find what they need to find. Maybe they won't find it this lifetime. Maybe they will. But the point is, I don't want to judge anybody's circumstance because we don't know what their spiritual journey is about. They might have come in to say, like, what's that like? What's it like to lose everything and end up living on the street? We don't know what, maybe they'd had the lives before that were all very affluent and they just wanted to know what it was like.
In fact, this is, for many people at this moment, this is a really hard time in the lives of a lot of people. There's all kinds of stuff going on politically. And in Southern California, we just came through the fires. There's always some that in Washington, the plane crash. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff always happening. I would imagine everybody who's watching or listening has some place of ache in their heart, and maybe even a place of full-on disaster. And
Yeah.
in what I love about your story, Kelle, is that it starts with what people would consider a disaster, like
Yeah.
this thing that you poured tens of thousands of dollars in, and you had your mom's hopes and dreams riding on it, and you were being the hero, you were suiting up, showing up, doing all the good things, and it was falling apart. And it was not only your business, but it was where you lived, and you had to give it all up. I mean, if we took a snapshot of that moment, we might go, oh my God, that poor girl.
Yeah.
But there's something that happens, and I like to say this about nightmares too, that we don't want to waste a crisis. We don't want to waste a nightmare. We don't want to waste a difficult thing, because it's such a focuser. It helps bring us into, sometimes we don't really listen until everything else has fallen apart. So now it's like, all right, fine. When all else fails, I guess I'll go to God. And it's like, there you are. Now I can give you the goods.
That
So
is exactly it. Yeah.
yeah. And you have I loved, you said at the beginning of the show about nightmares and like, it's so good to have those dreams so
Yeah.
that they don't have to play out in waking life. But even if they do play out in waking life, it might be the predecessor of the great miracle we're
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, absolutely true. But it is a safer place, if you're going to have something bad, for sure. What an elegant creation that instead of, like somebody just told me in a reading, they said, I'm really scared. I had a dream that somebody tore me out of my car and stole my car. I said, wow, I'm so glad that happened there rather than here. And I said, but of course, now what are you going to do from that? And she goes, well, what can I do? I said, lock your doors. When you're driving, because maybe it's a dream saying this could happen. We're letting you know. So lock the doors, because she said in the dream, the doors were unlocked. Somebody came up at the red light, ripped the door open, pulled her out of the car and jumped in. So I said, you have an opportunity to if that plays out in your reality, to have a different outcome. It told you something.
Yes.
Or what the message was, your doors are unlocked. For a while, you should maybe indefinitely drive with your doors locked. That's that they're giving them information, not always as direct as, somebody speaking like, please lock your doors, but it's a very clear message if you think about it.
Exactly. They're all, I mean, one thing I get from you, Kelle, and I love this about you, is that you assume the universe is on your side.
Oh, yeah.
And you assume that the universe is on everybody's side. And that little assumption, that little belief actually affects everything. So even if there's a nightmare, you're like, well, why did I have this? Why did you have this? It's meant to do something positive, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I shared this with you, that I'd gone through, in my life, I have had a couple of pretty significant health crises, and people could say, well, they can imagine winning the lottery, or they can imagine manifesting a goal or a dream, but they don't necessarily think, oh, health's real. That's too real. Well, I had like some pretty dire diagnoses in my life. At one point I was diagnosed with MS by 3 different doctors. And I said, you know what? I don't want that diagnosis. Thank you for your information. And I went and I did my meditation and I healed. And I said, I don't want this. I'm going to give this to you, God. I'm going to give this up. And then like 3 months later, after meditating, because I didn't do any of the things the doctors suggested, I did none of them. They said, we want you to do this and take this and do that. And I said, oh, no, I'll get back to you in a few months. I went to another doctor. No MS. I went to the doctors I went to before, and they said, this is a miracle. How did you get rid of this? I said, well, I thought about it, and that wasn't the path I wanted to take. And they said, well, that doesn't make sense. I said, well, that's okay. I said, that's okay. That's okay. But part of me before I got here might have, looking at before I'm going to incarnate into this physical lifetime, I might have been up looking at all the things you can do. Well, you could be an airplane pilot. You could be a homeless person. You could go through learning through malady. You could do this, that, and the other. I thought, so I picked up a few things before I got here, thinking I'd like those challenges. I got here and said, I don't think so. And then this year, I had a rather acute memory thing come up, and it took me 6 months, 6 months of really rigorous working on the one thing. And I said, it is important to me that my mind is alert and I can remember everything. I have absolute clarity. I have excellent recall. Align me in a tune, rewire my brain. I did several things. I gave my subconscious mind permission to function as a mind so that it could make choices that would heal me throughout the day and while I was sleeping, because I thought I want 24-hour a day healing. And 6 months later, all of those symptoms are gone. And the doctor again is like, this is amazing. I said, whenever you get a diagnosis that they say is incurable, it's a classic saying, where is the cure? The cure is within. So we can do it. If the incurable means the cure is within.
And impossible means I am possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I don't, and then I forgave myself, of course, for allowing the thing to unravel, for maybe making a bad choice before I got here physically. I did the forgiveness work on that so it doesn't impede my financial situation, which is only getting better and better and better. But it's like that. So just, and to go through the process. And sometimes, and this is a weird one for people, because they don't like to, the people are like, I'm never mad at God. If you get sick, sometimes you get mad at God, if you get really sick. And I love God completely, but it doesn't mean they don't need our forgiveness. They don't need it. They are grateful when you say, I'm sorry I made these mistakes and I'm forgiving you so I can set myself free, because I know you didn't do it, but I for a brief period of time, I thought you did,
Nice. Oh.
So, and they, of course, have already said, oh, you're forgiven. We love you. We always have. They're 100% forgiving,
Wow.
So it's that. But there's nothing we can't create, nothing we can't heal. But it is a commitment, and it is not looking over the shoulder and say, why hasn't it happened yet? I did it 7 times. I did it 7 times. I did it every day, 3 times a day for 6 months. Get back to me. Whenever you've made a commitment to heal yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and in that, I also wasn't in the space of self-pity. Poor me. This could, I could not know who I am in a few years. Poor me. I could end up, a burden to somebody. I didn't do any of that because I don't see the benefit in that. Self-pity or martyrhood. Martyrhood's the people that go, why me? Why has this happened to me? I did a little bit of that too originally, and then I forgave myself for that. But it's right. We do things that are normal human reactions, but not necessarily healthy human reactions. So you have to evaluate what you're doing. What am I feeding into this? Because if I'm feeding in very dark things, you get more dark things.
Right.
So, and I actually, and I don't want to share it here, so sorry, everybody, but I did finally do the personal work to figure out why I'd created it originally and let that go. And it's going to be different for everybody anyway. So when not a huge benefit, and you don't have to share with the whole world, by the way, every single detail, because this is your spiritual practice, your process. It's between you and the divine. So, share what is of benefit, but, I always tell people don't, pearls before not that no one here is swine.
Oink.
There's a world where there are kind people and unkind people in it. You don't have to make yourself vulnerable to every single person out there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, Kelle Grace Gaddis, what I appreciate so many things about you. I appreciate that you shared some of the light and the possibility, the fact that you won Lucky for Life, which means you get 50-something thousand.
$52,000 a year for life.
$52,000 a year for life.
Yes.
Plus you've won hundreds of thousands.
It's hundreds. Actually, I think that I don't know if I said it wrong. But it was like one a day. I think they recorded it as like 256. And sometimes I get excited, but it was more in the 300s.
I wonder if you're in the
we're probably at this point fast approaching 1,000, because I'm on a roll now where it's not one anymore. It's like I go and it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I just realized that what they're doing is saving me time. Do you see what I mean? Because I used to I'd have the premonitions and I'd have to go and you drive and it took time. but
Right.
illusion, but I've been asking for more
Whoa.
time to meditate and be.
Well, this feels like the
Yeah,
nutshell of all of the things that
yeah,
you've shared. It's about like raising your vibration
yeah,
through gratitude, forgiveness, paying attention to dreams, paying attention
yeah.
to those whispers, and then acting on them, even if it seems odd or strange or not perfect timing and there's things in the way, but really honoring that. So I am just so grateful to have you on. We just have like 1 minute before we've got to
Oh,
wrap up. But what any last words from you? I know everybody here, everybody that's watching now or later, there or listening now or later is going to want to do a session with you. So how do they find you, Kelle Grace Gaddis?
yeah, but they can still go to the old website. I am going to build a new website in the next 30 to 60 days. I'm actually so busy that I often have a hard time getting to those things. But my readings are now 60 minutes is $250, 45 minutes is $200, 30 minutes is $175, 15 minutes is $150, and the 15-minute is really only for one question. KelleGraceGaddis.com will still get you to me. You can, I prefer if people write to me via email with reading in the heading, and my email is my full name, KelleGraceGaddis@gmail.com. And the one last thing I'd like to say, taking off of
Yes.
what you were just saying,
Yes.
is and the with everything you said, which is so on point, it's also just to remember, if it doesn't work the first time, don't just throw your meditative, work out the door and say, I tried that, it didn't work for me. You're just building a new groove, and some people have more obstacles to transcend. So keep working it until the old groove of pain has filled itself in, and the new groove of elegance and receiving has been built.
Ooh, and to just hang out with
Yeah,
God
yeah,
and listen and
yeah,
know that you are just as blessed as anyone else.
yeah. Well,
Ain't
it's
nobody got nothing on you.
yeah. Think about the people who love you. Like
Yes.
if they always had to do something for you when you saw them, sometimes God just wants to be with you.
Ah,
Yeah.
Kelle Grace Gaddis, my new BFF. Thank you
Yes,
so much. I'd love to do this again. I
we
feel
will
like
get
you're,
together again.
yes, let's play in the sandbox of grace more often. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you all have gotten so much out of this. I hope you've taken so many notes. Check out KelleGraceGaddis.com and book a session with her. And we're all looking forward to your new book when that comes out. So let me know. We will
Yeah.
promote the heaven out of that.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank
regarding Dreamifesting, it's available for pre-order now. And you can go, if you go to barnesandnoble.com, you can get 25% off of the pre-order in the next few days. That's like only until February 8th,
you.
I believe. And check out the Conscious Life Expo. I'll be interviewing Bashar and Britt Elders live. It'll be my first ever live in-person podcast. I'm so excited. Also, the International Association for the Study of Dreams has their Southern California regional conference. That's coming up soon. If you go to my website or sign up, I'll get you all the information, or just go to asdreams.com. asdreams.org, sorry about that, and look up regional conferences. I will be there. I'll be speaking about Dreamifesting. And once again, Kelle Grace Gaddis, I love you.
Oh,
And
I love
I'm
you too, dear.
grateful. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
after all this, you're not going to take your dreams lying down. May your best ones come true. Sweet dreams. Thank you for listening to the Kelly Sullivan Walden Show. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, comment, and share it with your friends. If you'd like to pre-order my new book, Dreamifesting, go to your favorite online or brick and mortar retailer, then head on over to kellysullivanwalden.com/Dreamifesting. That's spelled DREAMIFESTING. That's where you input your order number, then redeem your bonus gifts. If you'd like to join me for the live recording of these shows, most Wednesdays at noon Pacific, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube Live. You can leave your questions or comments there, and you can also reach out to me on TikTok and Substack. Until next time, as you awaken to the power of your dreams, you make the world a lighter, brighter, more beautiful place, one dream at a time. Sweet dreams.